Let me interrupt you guys for a sec. Um, we are live, but we're not getting any audio to YouTube. We're only getting video. Stream.
All right, guys, y'all are good to go. County meeting, city meeting's good to go. We can hear everything. Y'all are good to go.
Mayor, staff's recommendation is for council to authorize the execution of the ordinance.
All right, you heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
So ordered.
A motion and second. Any further discussion? Do I hear a motion? A motion and second. Any further discussion? Do I hear a motion?
Order.
All right. No other discussion. Call for a vote, please. Do I hear a
Councilmember Tucker,
Yes.
Councilmember Head,
no other discussion? Call for a vote, please.
He is not here at the Doug dropped off.
Yes.
Councilmember Middlebrooks,
Yes. Call for a vote.
Councilmember Greathouse,
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks,
Yes.
Councilmember Greathouse,
Aye. Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks,
Yes.
All right.
Aye. Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks,
Yes.
Aye. Aye.
I believe Doug's back with us.
Yeah, are y'all getting any sound hardly at all? Because I noticed when DM was speaking, it was half in, half out. I had somebody calling that was trying to listen in from the outside, and they said, I'm getting nothing.
I could hear fine, Doug. Yeah, I don't know what's going on unless it's bad reception at your house.
Say, and they're hearing better, but are y'all getting?
I'm hearing everything, but
Is your sound really unreliable?
I can hear everybody except Doug.
me too.
Yeah. Let me try something. I'm gonna see if I can get him just logging on the phone.
Are you?
Doug, why don't you try just using your phone?
Well, when I went downstairs next to the router, it just totally came back.
Interesting.
Mayor, how do you want to proceed?
If Doug calls in, will that be better here? I think he's the only one that's having some. I think it's internet related.
Yeah, let's try that if we can.
So I'm gonna leave the meeting and log back in. All right.
Okay.
So to just call in a number or
Try logging out and then log back in.
So what you want me to do? Call into the number of.
Yeah, that'd be great. Doug, if you can get the can you get the number up? Call into the number.
On that screen.
All right, hang on. Just call me, Doug.
Why don't I leave the meeting and try to sign back in?
That might be the best thing.
Russell, text.
Yes, sir. What do you need?
I'm going to try.
Lonnie,
Yes.
you call Doug and give him the number. I don't think he has the number.
Yeah, I did. He's saying that the meeting is locked, but I'm not sure how. Let me just call him. Hey, Doug.
I called the number and said you will not be admitted because the meeting is locked.
Let me try something real quick. Russell, say something.
Lonnie,
Yeah.
let me ask you, if I go down
It should be, Doug. Yeah.
here, that's when it just wouldn't connect at all. So I'm going to skip right. Lonnie, can you hear me at all?
Yeah, I can hear you, Doug.
All right, Doug. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear y'all. I'm just wondering if you can hear me.
Yeah, we're good. Let's roll.
Yeah, he cleared there.
Yep.
So Russell,
Do we need to go back, Gail, and let him vote on that to record?
Yes, we probably need to get him to vote since he was.
Well, go ahead, Gail. Tell him who made the motion and all that stuff.
And what were we voting on?
Yeah.
You want me and Dean to walk back through it, Mayor?
Yeah.
But Dean, what's the formal procedure since we did have a motion in a second?
The issuance of the revenue bond.
I'm still not getting Doug fully.
All right. Doug. I'm just going to try to get Doug to call in, see if I can get that to work. Hang on.
Yeah. 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 All right. So I'm having Doug leave the meeting and just call in. So bear with me just a second.
Mm.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
I can.
How's the volume?
It's good.
All right. I guess this is the best I can get. I'm not sure why. Signal's not very good.
I hear you clear now.
So since we have a motion and a second, we just need to redo who made the motions and what the motion was for and revote. That's the best way to do that, Russell.
Yes, staff's recommendation was to authorize the execution of the ordinance, Mayor, specifically for the issuance of the revenue bond for the fire station.
And who made the motion? Who seconded?
Councilman Greyhound and Councilman Tuckett's the second, I think.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
I guess we just call for a vote on that again, please.
Okay. Councilman Greathouse,
All right.
Councilmember Middlebrooks,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker,
Yes.
Councilmember Head.
Yes. The next item for council's consideration is the approval or the authorization to execute an agreement between the city of Thomaston and ESG for the production of our watershed protection plan. It's a monitoring plan and reporting plan that's required by the EPD since 2011. Over the past few years, ESG has provided this service. You should have a copy of the attachment with your packet in form of a proposal and an actual agreement. The cycle is broken down into 3 years. First of which is water quality monitoring. Second, which they pick up macro and vertebrate monitoring. In the third year, they pick up fish community bio monitoring. And the associated price with the service is tiered each year, dependent upon the type of monitoring service, but can be found on page 4 of your attachment. Total 3-year contract price is in the amount of $85,000, and that's broken down by year. Year number 1's $19,000, and the 2 subsequent years are $33,000. This item was procured back in 2017, and ESG was the low bid. This is a continuation of that service, and they have not increased their price. As such, staff's recommendation is to authorize the execution of the agreement for the production of the watershed monitoring program.
Motion to approve.
Motion to hear second.
I second.
All right, any further discussion?
Who seconded?
Jeff seconded it.
Okay.
Hearing no discussion, call for a vote, please.
Councilmember Greathouse,
Aye.
Councilmember Head,
Yes.
Councilmember Middlebrooks,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker.
Yes.
The next item for council's consideration is authorization to contract with a building inspection service company. This project was put out to bid. We received 3 respondents. We did not have any individuals respond to our procurement, but we did receive respondents from 3 different companies. And what we asked for was companies that could provide plan review, building inspection services for both residential structures and commercial structures, specific to state code that requires certain certifications or the holding of certain certifications for inspections related to the minimum building code, residential code, fire code, mechanical code, plumbing code, et cetera, which we have adopted by reference as part of our building inspection or part of our code of ordinances. We met with all 3 of the companies, Charles Abbott and Associates, Safe Built, and also Bureau Vistas. After the interviews with the company, staff's recommendation for council is to entertain a scope or agreement with Charles Abbott and Associates. Their parent company is out of California, but they have an office out of Atlanta, and they actually have a building inspector who provides this sort of service out of the Griffin area. You should have a copy. I think I sent it out as a separate addendum, or Ms. Gale sent it out, of their fee structure. The way that they get paid is based off of a percentage basis of the permit and plan review fees that the city receives. So they take a cut of that, and per their schedule A on their agreement is, I believe, 60% of the fees that would cover the cost of plan review and building inspection for both residential and commercial. We talked to them about turnaround on residential, plan review, I believe, is 5 days. And then actual inspection time is within 24 hours of notification, which seemed very, very responsive. So Staff's recommendation is to authorize staff to enter into an agreement with Charles Abbott's and Associate for plan review and also building inspection, both residential and commercial. All of that pending legal confirmation of the agreement that has been sent in absence of any changes or modifications.
All right, you've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Your second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote, please.
Councilmember Greathouse,
Aye.
Councilmember Head, Doug there.
I think he's trying.
Okay, Councilmember Middlebrooks,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker.
Yes.
The next item for council's consideration is discussion of potential decorum public comment for either a regularly called meeting or a special called meeting for the purpose of the discussion of the renaming and relocation of the Robert E. Lee or R.E. Lee Institute name and certain artifacts associated or contained therein. As we discussed in previous council meetings, due to the COVID and how we're meeting now virtually, we have indefinitely suspended our public comment portion of the agenda and wanted council to have the opportunity to discuss how you would like to proceed, whether we would like to reinstitute public comment, or if there was a different mechanism council wanted to entertain prior to that conversation and that item being placed on either a specially called or a regular agenda. So this time I'll turn it over to you, Mayor, for your thoughts, comments, and conversations. But prior to that, Ms. Reeves had asked, I think tentatively we said we were going to meet on that issue on the 18th of August, which would be our next regularly scheduled meeting. But due to unforeseen circumstances, I do not think she is going to be able to attend that and would like to be present for that conversation. So I told her I would pass that along for council's edification.
All right. Anybody have any ideas?
I think it needs to be a specially called meeting and have only that on the agenda.
I think I would agree with that as well.
I don't have a
I would
problem doing
agree with that too.
I would agree with that, and we have a different venue or location, like I said, a civic center or a similar location. And that way we would have an increase in the amount of people that can attend and more citizen input.
Yeah, when does the Civic Center open back up?
tomorrow.
Yeah, and JD council, I talked to Mindy, I talked to Jason. I believe Jeff may have been part of that conversation, but I think we can accommodate Jeff is 160.
That's
Sound
correct.
right?
Yes,
On the floor.
yes.
So if council has a potential date you would like to throw out there, we will be more than happy to set up the logistics with the folks at the Civic Center. But regarding public comment, traditionally we require sign up prior to, and we limit that to 5 minutes per participant. Obviously council has the prerogative to set whatever type of decorum they wish for such a meeting. So if that is consistent with what you would like to see, if you'd like to see 3 minutes, 2 minutes, If you would like to limit the number of people that speak, that's probably a DN question as to whether or not we can do that. Would you like to have people sign up? So any of those things that we need to flesh out prior to the calling of that meeting, if we could take a moment and do that, Mayor.
Of course, Mayor, me personally, I would like to keep it at 5 minutes like we've been doing it, stay consistent like we've been doing.
Any
Hey,
limit?
Mayor, I think I wish we could in some way limit the number, because I think like some of the other meetings we're going to have, I think, I think it will be a very well attended meeting. I think there's going to be a lot of people, but I do think that we're going to hear some of the same things. I was talking with Lori Lindsay, who's the lady who is heading up the petition to keep the R.E. Lee name up there. And she at least agreed. I think she at least has organized a large number of people, and she agreed that it would be best. And Deanne, I guess you would have to answer this. She agreed it'd be best to limit the number of people, to 5 to 10 people, and just say, because I think we're gonna hear the same thing over and over, and I think it will be hard. Otherwise, we'll be there till 3 a.m.
I understand what you're saying, Doug, but how would you decide who would be the 5 to 10 people to make an announcement or what have you?
Yeah, very good question. I don't know, Jeff. I don't know, and it might not even be
time off to have more people to talk. Too, you got to look at it that way. 2 minutes a minute.
As far as trying to limit how many can speak, I'll have to look at that and see if we can do that. My concern would be what Councilman Middlebrook said, that we may hear the same thing from 3 or 4 people, and not give each side or each opinion enough time. That would be a concern for me. I just have to look at it. I'm not sure how we can limit it.
Mayor, I'll send you a copy of the pertinent resolution that we have on the books that sets the decorum. And I believe it says the council reserves the rights to, if there are redundant speakers, then the council would have the right to not hear that if people are saying the same thing over and over. So I'll send that out to you so you have a copy of what the current rules are. Currently, we require sign up Thursday prior to a Tuesday meeting. So I would assume that in keeping with that spirit, does council wish for participants to still sign up prior to, or is this going to be more of a town hall session?
I thought it was going to be more of a town hall session, but due to the numbers, you may want them to sign up ahead of time.
If we ask them to sign up and then there's an overwhelming number of people there that night, could we entertain a motion to allow others to sign up that night?
I think y'all can set whatever policy you wish to, Mayor. We'll set it up however.
My big concern is how would you determine how many people would speak that night or what have you? That would be one of my biggest concerns, because when you're talking about a town hall meeting, that means that it's open to the public. And of course, the way I see it is that if you're opening up for a town hall meeting, then everybody that will speak really can speak. Yeah, of course, I know the time wise, but
Well, maybe what we need to do is just put a time limit on the meeting itself, and that dictates how many people can speak.
That could be it. Yeah, could put a big time
Like,
on it.
I had a town hall meeting, We say it's going to be from, you know, an hour and a half, whatever I don't remember exactly what it was, but
Right.
if we just say, okay, you know, we're going to have it, this is the length of the meeting, and then we'll dedicate, you know, however much time to public comment, and then whoever comes and speaks, you know, that we can fit into that time frame, then that's kind of how we can do it. I don't know of any other fair way to do it.
Right, right.
And have one side, then the next side, so it's not 5 people on one side and you only get to 2 on the other or something like this.
Right, right. So I guess the biggest thing is to try to set a time as far as what time you want to set it from. I don't know if you want to go hour and a half or what have you, but that's a good point, Councilman Tucker.
If I may, Mayor, and it's totally subject to y'all, but I would say maybe an hour and a half, but reserve 30 minutes of which for your internal deliberations or discussions prior to any vote or action.
Sounds good. So pretty much an hour of public comment and 30 minutes of, because it's only going to be that one issue.
And I would hope that any councilman that want to say something would be able to. It's a little disappointing to me that we couldn't have the county there too, because I feel like in the end they could be involved in the decision too. Or, I mean, what are they going to do? Have their own? It just seems like that's a way we could work together, I would think.
Well, from what I understand, they absolutely have to be involved in the decision based on the ownership of the ownership of that property. Am I right, Russell?
My understanding is yes. The deed to the property or the complex is owned by both parties.
Yeah, but the question is, I sure wish we could arrange for them to be there too, so that they wouldn't have to have their own separate town hall meeting. They will eventually, hope have to look at this, and so you know, it would seem like they would benefit from being there if this is a piece of property that we both own together.
They ain't gonna want to do that.
Reed?
Is that Ms. Reeves?
I believe so, Reed.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, we're just checking to make sure you're there.
Okay.
Hey, Russell, let me ask a question. And Deanne, I don't know if we've researched this enough. Let's say the city passed it and the county voted against it. Well, what happens at that point?
I think it's got to be at that point, I'm not sure we both own, as I understand it, 50% interest in that building. So it would be one vote for yes and one vote to leave it as it is. I've never been involved in a situation like this where the property was owned by two different entities that could agree. That would definitely have to be something I would research to tell how we would determine what comes about.
You know, Doug, I think it would be like if we both owned the house and I wanted to change the color of the outside of the house. As long as you didn't say anything to the contrary, I could probably go on and paint it. But then if you filed some sort of injunction, it would be an issue for the court to worry about. Best solution would be that both parties reach some sort of agreement so that we can move, together in the same direction.
Right.
Would be the preference.
Mm-hmm.
I wish, well, we'll have to see how we end up, but I wish there would be a point where we could all sit down together and just talk about it. But maybe that would be best done after a public meeting.
Yeah.
I'll definitely invite them if that is the wish of the council.
Not a bad idea.
Do you want me to invite them for a joint meeting, or to come as participants, or to come as listeners, or it's up to you?
I would say they could be part of the town hall meeting itself.
I agree.
County hall is not gonna want to do that.
Well, Lakeitha, if they decide they don't want to, and rather have one on their own, then that'd be fine. But
Yeah.
I'll just say, in the interest of time, I can't imagine why we wouldn't want them to hear the comments, because otherwise people are gonna have to come to two different meetings.
Mm-hmm.
You know, their preference, and I think at the time, and I don't know if things have changed, Doug, but in talking with the county manager, he had asserted that, you know, not a lot of their constituents had reached out, and they would prefer that if any action or request of the city council were to be made, that be forwarded to them in the form of a resolution for their consideration. But I will certainly pass on an invitation to participate in whatever type of meeting y'all so wish.
Yeah. County ain't gonna do that.
Well, the biggest thing, can we come up with a date so we could be prepared for the Civic Center, this town hall meeting? That way we can get the date out there to the public.
Thursday worked better because of our meetings and their meetings going back to back, so Tuesdays are kind of out.
Thursday's fine with me.
20th?
20th,
Thursday, you said on Thursday?
Thursday the 20th. That's we'll give it a week or so.
Yeah. I'm good with that. If everybody else is.
If I can be there, I'd like to be there. I know 14 days.
When could you be there, Ms. Reeves?
I have 12 more days.
It's 14, so.
What's the
How about the 20?
10, 11. Today's the 11th.
How about the 27th?
27th?
What?
I'm out of town on the 27th. 3rd? September 3rd, is that the Thursday before?
That's right before Labor Day that weekend.
Yeah, Labor Day's that weekend. That Thursday can be good or bad.
But it shouldn't fit with Labor Day weekend, though, shouldn't it? That Thursday, shouldn't it?
Say again, Jeff.
It shouldn't interfere with that Labor Day weekend, that Thursday, shouldn't it? You think everybody be in town?
Yeah, it was just a question. I'm not.
Yeah.
What day?
Thursday the 27th.
The 27th?
Yes, ma'am.
September 3rd.
September 3rd, then?
Yeah, it'll be okay.
Wait a minute, are we talking about the 27th or the 3rd?
The 3rd.
Okay, we're gonna jump to the 3rd.
I thought you said Miss Lakeitha had 12 more days.
Yeah, I have 12 more days.
So that would be what, the 24th, 23rd?
23rd, 24th.
Could we have it on the 27th?
I'm out of town on the 27th.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor. I didn't hear that part. My bad.
But I mean, I guess we could have it that Monday.
The 24th.
If we want to do it we want to do it on this month and get it on the 24th.
That ought to be okay.
Russell, my only concern is we've been talking about the forum, And if it's gonna be a joint meeting, as we're talking about to the county, we'd have to rethink that. I'm just wondering if we need to.
Yeah, they would have to call it too.
Yeah, we would have to, I think, maybe have some further discussion about that and have, everybody think about how we want to handle it.
Yeah. And Russell, I would want the opportunity for councilmen to have a chance to make a statement at that meeting too. I don't, and you can limit the time that have to do that, but, I think it would be good for people to know where the councilmen stand, or if the county commissioners are there, where they stand on it, or what their opinion is.
Right. I agree.
We could call it for the 24th, and then I believe they have a meeting today. We could ask them, I could ask the county manager, tell them we're calling a meeting, and the request of the request of the council was that for it to be a joint meeting, and then we just see what they do, or we can wait.
I guess it will be fleshed out where people stand when the vote's called, right?
If we meet on the 24th, they're going to have a meeting on the 25th. I don't know if they want to do back-to-back nights. That's the only thing on that one.
Yeah.
We may have to get with them and give them a couple of dates and let them kind of, if they choose to join us.
All right, is there any more discussion or anything else we need to settle, Mayor, with regards to decorum? I mean, do we want to set a date, or what do you want me to do?
Does the council just want us to reach out to them and see if they're interested, and then have them get with us and look at maybe the 24th or the 3rd, whatever it was? Give them like 2 dates to look at.
Yeah, I think you'd have to reach out to them. They may say, we're not interested. We want y'all to meet and decide and send it to us then. I'd reach out to them.
That it, Mayor?
I think so.
All right, the next item for council's consideration is discussion approval of GDOT right-of-way in connection to the fire station project. As part of this permitting for a safety signal that would control ingress egress for the fire trucks in the event that a 911 call comes out. Part of the GDOT permit process requires the dedication of right-of-way prior to permit approval for strain poles. The signalization would be attached thereto. And what I would like authorization from council to do is to execute and to dedicate that right-of-way on the property that the city currently owns to GDOT. And Deanne, do you have the specifics? Is it 10 by 15 feet? Is that all we're talking about on the city parcel?
I believe I don't have that plat in here. I can go grab it. I think ours is 10 by 26.
Or 10 by 26. So you're not talking about a lot of real estate, but it is required as part of the permitting process prior to the signalization being authorized. So staff's recommendation is to authorize the conveyance to the Georgia Department of Transportation for the permit to be considered for a safety signal at the construction of the new fire department site.
We would need to give Doug that authorization instead of me to sign.
Correct, Mayor.
Now, you heard the recommendations?
So ordered.
Motion to hear second.
A second.
Motion in a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Was that Jeff that seconded?
I believe so.
Okay.
I did.
All right. Thank you. Councilman Greathouse,
Hey, all right.
Councilmember Head,
Yes.
Councilman Middlebrooks,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker.
Yes.
Mayor, that's all of the business I have, other than 2 items that will have to be, potentially 3 items that'll have to be voted upon following executive session.
We need a motion to go into executive session.
So move.
So Russell, are we gonna have other business before executive session, or are we gonna have it after executive session?
After executive session.
Okay.
And just so it's clear, the executive session portion that I need to address is with regard to real estate.
Oh, I think to Doug's point, Doug, the other business section of the agenda is prior to executive session. So if there's anything else, I just skipped over that, Mayor.
Anyone have any other business before we actually go into executive session?
I definitely do. And I want to, I know there's a lot of conversation been about the R.E. Lee name change. And this is something that I just really wanted to make some comments about. And these comments may be a little long, but I apologize. It's just that I want to get it on the record. As everybody knows, from what you've seen by both petitions, there's a lot of input on both sides, and I think it's a really important issue. And I've been giving a lot of thought to this topic, and I know that y'all have too. And in the interest of full disclosure, I've got strong connections both to people, relatives that fought in the Confederacy, and a whole host of people, including myself and my twin, that went to Robert E. Lee Institute. And so I got interest on both sides. And again, the Confederacy fought all the way from Chickamauga to Lookout Mountain to Gettysburg and all that. And my father was the team doctor for Robert E. Lee. My best friend was one of the best players at RE. I mean, I'm just up to my neck in both accounts. So I have a lot invested in it. And I think it's an important issue. But in the midst of all these connections, I would say nothing really colors my vision more than my commitment to Jesus Christ. And this is something that makes me take a very strong interest in this. As everybody knows, the whole issue surrounds Robert E. Lee Institute, which was closed in 1992. And the campus was repurposed and renamed into the Thomaston Upson County Governmental Administration Complex building. That's a mouthful to say that, but the R.E. Lee name was kept on the front of the building, and the portraits of Robert E. Lee and John B. Gordon, as everybody knows, along with the Lee curtains, were kept in the auditorium. And that's what the whole conversation is really about. We're now almost 30 years after the closing of that school, and yet the R.E. Lee name remains on the front of the building, and that is now a public space for our local government. People have said to me that the name is all we have left, and I just simply couldn't agree more. If we look at other schools in our county that have been in our county, Yatesville, Atwater, Worthy, Rock Hill, Thurston, Drake, and I'm sure all those schools were very loved like Robert E. Lee. They're just a shadow of their former self. But the Lee campus is as beautiful as it ever was for people to come and walk around and remember. And I'm very thankful that our government chose the space. In fact, I don't think any private entity could have been interested in it to utilize all of it. But fortunately, our government, city and county, did that, and we've kept the campus beautiful. So for us, we're asked to reconsider naming the R.E. Lee name that's on the front of the government building, or taking that name off and those portraits out. So it brings us to the question, do we feel it is right to have R.E. Lee's name on the top of the building that's our government building? But to answer these questions, I'm going to tell you, I have talked to a ton of people, both black and white, and I wanted to talk to them because I felt that there are many people who are willing to share their feelings in a one-on-one setting, but they're hesitant to do so in a group. And I just simply wanted to hear how they felt without any pressure or expectation. And I'll tell you, through all my talks that I talked to everybody, I ended up with a deep respect with people on both sides and found that the people were both passionate on both sides. But I do think there's some misconceptions out there. And I've often hear people saying what you're trying to do is erase history or sanitize history. And I think, no, that's not true. Nobody's trying to erase history. We're just trying to acknowledge history and to understand history better, and through a better collective understanding to decide how we want to live our lives in 2020 and to build a better future for our community. We're not talking about tearing these things down and throwing them away or storing them away in a closet, but rather looking to find a way to relocate these items to a more appropriate place where they can be appreciated. And I think if we could do that through the archives or someplace else, possibly above the senior center or someplace like that, I think it would be something that people would really like. But I don't think it needs to be on the top of the buildings where we serve the public. Many people will say to me, Doug, this is all about politics. No, it has nothing for me to do with politics. It's about humanity and making all people feel good about being in a space that serves them. And so just quickly to tell you about the gist of what I heard, and again, I respect both sides. In my talks with my RE Lee graduate friends, they expressed strong opinion and passionate feelings about the school they love and they remember, and those feelings are really consistent. They had strong feelings of love and loyalty for RE Lee Institute. And they tell me, Doug, when we drive by the government buildings, I don't see that name of a Confederate general up there. I see the name of the school that was a part of the best part of my life. And I believe that. But let me tell you, when I talk to people on the other side, my African-American friends, I also hear a very consistent message. I heard comments from them about how they simply have numbed themselves over time to these things. And only when we have an unfortunate event on a national scale that it rises to the surface and forces them to consider how they feel. Doug, they'll say, Doug, we just learned to deal with it. And something doesn't sound right to me about that, particularly when it's over a government building. And if you think about it, we create monuments and symbols to people that we revere and hold as heroes and noble causes, the causes that we honor and support. And what I hear is that, and I agree with it, for a great portion of our people, these names and symbols and monuments and portraits don't represent good things, but rather something that's painful, in fact, a horrible part of our history. I think monuments and symbols like that in public spaces should honor greatness, and this just wasn't a part of history that many people want to celebrate. What I did hear from them is that they'd like to see a museum or archive, and it would be a far more appropriate place where people could choose to go or not to go. But this public space where people go to pay their utilities, to meet with their leaders, to discuss their wants and needs and desires, that's not the place where it should be. And I agree. They say these things we see are a constant reminder of our forefathers and what their forefathers went through, and also what the Confederacy was willing to give their lives for. They said that when they look back on it, that they've simply suppressed their feelings over time. And again, say they've just been numb to it. And the last thing that they said, lastly, one of the things they said that I think is really hit me is they said, Doug, when we look at these things and look up on this public space, this name above that, where the space represents all of people, and we see that name, we feel that the leaders must feel this is okay to do that. But let me say, and I want to tell people, because people say, where are you hearing this? Let me tell you that these people that I sought them out. Nobody came to me I sought people out. I wasn't recruited by anybody or any group. The people I talked to, I saw people that I trusted and felt had no axe to grind and were at times almost hesitant, sadly, almost apologetic when they spoke. And I was moved to think on this because I love people. And this is a world that is, I say, hurting and torn and divided and searching. And I'll be honest with you, my faith in Jesus Christ makes me want to decide what is the right thing to do. It's an important issue to me because I sought these people out because I wanted to know the truth and make a decision that's right for everybody. Again, I'm gonna say again, it has nothing to do with politics for me. It's rather about humanity. It's a moral question for me, and my commitment to Christ pushes me to search for the best answer in an imperfect world. So I think we find ourselves in a time where we're asked to make a decision about these names and symbols, which mean very different things to different people. The symbols for the school we love on the one side, for those on the other side, is tied to the most iconic individual in a war that tore our country apart and killed over 600,000 of our own citizens in an effort to keep another group of people enslaved. The question we got to decide is, are these feelings of sentimentality and love and loyalty for a school that's been closed for 28 years more important than our love for our fellow citizens today in 2020, for which these symbols are a terrible and painful reminder of times past, and again, an effort to keep them enslaved? It's part of our history. I'm not trying to erase that. But it's not a part of history that should be in this public space where we serve everybody. Our governmental space is a place to make all people we represent feel more than, not less than. And let me ask people that love Robert E. Lee, is it not the school that we remember and love? Is it not the place, the ground where those people and those memories were made? Why is it so important to insist that those 5 letters up there, Robert R.E. Lee and 1875, why is it so important to insist that that name remain on this building that is no longer a school when for some it's a very painful memory? I don't think I need to remind you all that people of color have died among the many in World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, and Iraq to help make our freedom possible. Let's also remember that a black man, Crispus Attucks, a man of color, is widely regarded as the first American killed in the American Revolution. People of color have died and shed their blood for this nation. By the way, this nation that we call the United States of America. And it's all history. It's our history. And we're not here to erase it or sanitize it, but rather to understand it and to think about how it affects others. And it's not always a pretty and neat little story. I'm not here to judge Robert E. Lee or John B. Gordon, but really, again, I want us to decide how we're going to live our lives today. And I want us to stop living in the past and try to build a future in this community that our young people will want to come back to. And it's my opinion that the sentimentality that surrounds all the memories we have for this school is not a strong enough reason to leave these symbols here when they represent a painful part of history for a whole group of our citizens. It's a public building now. It has been for almost 30 years and represents all of our people, not just some. Let's simply move these things and again, I'm not talking about throwing them away. I'm saying let's move them to a more appropriate place where they can be seen by those who want to see them. And let's more fairly show this building for what it is now, a public space for all the people we represent. In the end, I see this as a question not of politics, but of our humanity. And let me let me lastly say, I'm going to relate a reason to you why I think if Robert E. Lee, this man that this conversation is somewhat centered around, if he were here, he'd bless this effort to change things. You may be surprised for me to say this, but if you know your history, you shouldn't be. I wish General Lee could speak for himself, but perhaps he already has. I think there's a particular comment that Lee made in a letter that he wrote to the Gettysburg Battlefield Association that directly addresses how we feel about these things. The Gettysburg Battlefield, which most of y'all are familiar with, the Gettysburg Battlefield Memorial Association had extended to Robert E. Lee an invitation to attend the meeting of the officers engaged in the Battle of Gettysburg for the purpose of marking on the ground purpose of marking on the ground their positions and movements of the armies on the field. And then they were going to go erect granite monuments to mark these things so that people would remember what was done there. Well, Lee responded to them in a letter from Lexington, Virginia, dated, if it was 1 week ago today when we should have met, it would be the 151st anniversary of his response to them. So 151 years ago last week on Tuesday, he wrote a letter in response, and I think his words are just as relevant today as they were then. And in the letter, he said, "My engagements will not permit me to be present. I believe if there, I couldn't add any more information to the information existing on the subject." And this is the part I want to get to. He said, "I think it wiser, moreover, not to keep open the sores of war, but to follow the examples of those nations who endeavored to obliterate the marks of civil strife, to commit to oblivion the feelings engendered. Very respectfully, Robert E. Lee." And so, in finishing, I say I do think I see it as Lee saw it. However, I wouldn't wish, as he instructed us, to obliterate the items as he had hoped, but rather to move them to a more appropriate place. I think he saw it as I do, not as a political question, but a moral question. And I simply say that these monuments and symbols that we have are a huge reminder to us all, but they carry very different connotations. I agree with General Lee to commit these things to the past and not keep open the sores of war. Taking down these words, monuments, and symbols, they won't feed a person or change the economy or the cost of education or health care, but it may just help us take the next step down a road together. And I wish that the city and the county or either the representatives of the body would get together and discuss these things and sit down and find a better and more appropriate place like the archives or above the senior center for these historical items. And I want to say, let's become an example for other people faced with a similar situation. So I just felt that this is an important issue to me. And we have kicked this can down the road a long time, y'all. And I want to stop kicking this can down the road. And I want to make an effort to, back in 1970, I think it was, after integration, they submitted a request to change the name, and it didn't happen then. When we consolidated schools and converted it to public space, we left the name up there. And I just really believe that, again, I really believe that we need to appreciate the past, and I think we need to learn it and acknowledge for it. But I also think we need to quit living in the past. We need to face the future and build a community that our young people want to come back to. If y'all talk to most of the young people, you're going to find very few of them that just say, they'll just all say, just do what you want to do. Go ahead and change it. It's that group of us that went to school, and I know the 50s, the 60s, and 70s. And but to me, it's time to face the future. And And I don't think that a public place is a place to have that name. It was the name of our school. The school's been closed, so I'll just finish with that.
Anybody else have any other business? Because we have to go to executive session because we've got some matters that we got to attend to before county has a meeting here shortly. So,
Mayor, what we'll do is Lonnie will stop the live stream to YouTube, and then I'll let you know when we're in executive session after you vote.
okay, we need a motion to go for personnel, real estate, and is there anything?
That's all, Mayor.
All right, I hear a motion to go into executive session.
Make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Hey, Russell, will I have to call back in?
I don't think so.
Call back in.
I think the only thing, this will be the same as we are now. It'll just, the live feed on YouTube will be paused. So, can hearing nothing else, gonna call for a vote, please.
Councilmember Greathouse,
Aye.
Councilmember Head,
Yes.
Councilmember Middlebrooks,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker,
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves, you still there?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mayor, we're waiting on IT. As soon as I get confirmation, I'll let you know.
All right. There he is. It's Lonnie. We're back on there, it looks like.
We live, Lonnie? Hello. All right, Mayor, we're good.
All right, we're back in we're about out of executive session now. Move to hear recommendations from city manager.
First order of business, Mayor, is an item that we moved after the executive session, and that's confirmation of the HR director. City manager's recommendation for the appointment of HR director is Ms. Jennifer Sands. Staff's recommendation is to confirm.
You've heard that recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilmember Greathouse,
Aye.
Councilmember Head,
Yes.
Councilmember Middlebrooks,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker,
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves.
Yes.
The next item for council's consideration is the authorization of an ordinance to specify the value of a particular piece of property that is abutting to Standard Textile, that the value for that property be $1,500 with additional consideration that Standard Textile pay for any associated legal fees and the appraisal for such property, and that such property be transferred over and sold to Standard Textile in accordance with the appropriate City of Thomaston Code of Ordinances.
All right, you've heard that recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
So ordered.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote.
Councilmember Greathouse,
Aye.
Councilmember Head,
Yes.
Councilmember Middlebrooks,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker,
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves.
Yes.
That's all the business I have, Mayor.
All right. I appreciate everybody logging on and doing this. Today we had some important stuff we had to get through. We'll have a meeting next Tuesday night. How are we going to do that, Russell? Normal? Hopefully.
The pleasure is yours, Mayor. I'll be off of quarantine by then, so
Hopefully.
hopefully.
Miss Reeves will still be on there, so we may have to get a way to get her in.
Yeah, I will be. So Miss, I will tell her.
How do you like, do you want to call in? Do you just want to plan on being, do you want auditorium or council chambers?
Probably, if we're going to have to call in, probably council chambers.
Okay.
We put off the discussion to another meeting, so maybe, it's going to be a special meeting, so maybe there won't be a lot of, we can join in.
Is this our regular third week meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What date did we decide on the other? The 24th?
I think we said the 24th
We're
or
going to
the
wait until
3rd.
you hear from the county.
We're going to hear from the county.
All right.
We should know by next Tuesday the date so we can announce.
Okay. All right.
All right. No one has anything else, so I hear a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All right. Favor to say, y'all stay well, stay safe.
Y'all too.
Thank you.
You too.
Take care, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.